But Malal here with another Derp and Coffee Twitter space. I'm starting a little early, and I'm going to do this every week to try to give time for those that are waiting for the Twitter to start or get time for people to come in. I am going to do a reading from the first chapter of my personal story of my buff orange. And so I'm going to do this before every Twitter space to give time. And for those that are listening to the recording, if you want to listen to those chapters each week, feel free to listen at the beginning. If not, you can skip ahead. Usually each chapter is about a 5 to 10 minute read, depending on the length. But it's a great way to keep me motivated to continue to write this story. So I have 5 chapters right now written, and so this way it's forcing me. Hey, look, I gotta write another chapter. 4 or 5 weeks from now. So without further ado, I'll start on that, and then we'll jump right into the Twitter space for today. And the topic today is Derps 101. Anything and everything you need to know about the entire collection, from derps to eggs to derplings, derp apes, pred, everything. We're going to talk about that today, and hopefully we can get that all in an hour. But I'm going to get started. So here is the first chapter to Buff Orange Origins. The hazy glow of the kingdom lights shine off in the distance through the large window of the transport bus. It seems like forever since Buff Orange has laid his eyes on Derpetonia. 10 years seems like an eternity when every walking moment was spent fighting for your life, fighting for your kingdom. It was never supposed to last that long, or that's at least what the king told him. Only 311 soldiers were making that journey back home that night. Looking around the bus and seeing the faces of so many friends, his only friends, he reflected on the last 10 years of his life. How much different he was now compared to when he left so many years ago as a young and naive Derp, thinking this war would be easy, that he would be back in a few months. Buff Orange was a part of an elite group of Derps called the Buff Squad. At birth, they were genetically engineered to be physically stronger than any other Derp. While this may seem like a blessing to some, it was actually a curse. You see, there was a reason Buff Derps were created. They were a sort of backup plan. Naturally, all male derps were inferior to their female counterparts in every way. The females of Derpetonia were considered the first line of defense, the warriors of the kingdom. For hundreds of years, the kingdom was at peace, but one day they had all changed. That day is forever burned into the memory of every derp. Launch day. The bells of the kingdom began to ring relentlessly, a sound that was foreign to so many, the sound that would have been enjoyable on this beautiful evening with the sun setting in the distance if it didn't mean something so sinister. Those bells meant one thing and one thing only. The outer perimeter was triggered in space. It's been hundreds of years since that last happened. Many believed that it was a false alarm, but the scientists in charge insisted to the king that something very large has breached the perimeter and was moving in the direction of the kingdom. Without hesitation, the king gathered all female derps into the hall that night. No one other than the king knows what was said during that meeting. It forever remains a mystery to this day, but every female rushed to their B-jets immediately. No goodbyes, no explanation, just gone in a matter of minutes. What happens next haunts the citizens of Derpetonia to this day. The moment the B-jets left the atmosphere, the scientists lost all communication. Not one word was heard back from them. All sensors were empty, like they vanished. The only thing that was detectable was a large mass inside the perimeter. Weeks went by, and still no word from the female derps. The large mass stopped moving towards Derpetonia a few days after they left. The king took this as a sign that somehow the female derps were able to intercept. 3 more months go by, and still nothing. 7 months since launch day, and the scientists finally detect their smaller masses entering the atmosphere. But they weren't heading towards Derpetonia. They landed in a neighboring kingdom thousands of miles away. Could this be the females? If so, why did they not head back home? The king didn't want to wait for an answer, so he called for all Buff Squad to make the journey to our neighboring kingdom. What was supposed to be only a scouting mission turned into all-out war, because what they encountered when they got there was nothing like they'd ever seen before. Buff Orange rested, his head against the window, looking at the lights of the kingdom getting closer. A sense of pride rushed over him, knowing he made it, that most of his friends did too. But immediately that pride was gone when he remembered all those that they lost to the relentless war. Was it really worth it? The bus pulls into the kingdom gates, finally, home. The bus all let out a breath of relief and begin to file out the bus. They say their goodbyes for now. It was late and they all wanted to finally get home. Well, at least to what they thought was home. On the way home, Buff Orange noticed how different everything seemed. He really missed this place. It was so quiet, almost peaceful. Again, that sense of pride rushed over him as he walked up to the door of his house and opened it. Empty, bare. Immediately he felt all alone. What did he fight for only to return to this? He turned around and walked down the streets of Derpetonia. Where should I go? He thought. So that is the end of chapter 1. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be doing that at the beginning of the Twitter space to kind of open it up, like I said. But now, if you guys want to speak or want to ask questions, I'll open that up throughout this explanation of what derps are. So just make sure you request to do that, and I'll make sure to get to you and leave it open for you to ask any questions. So we're going to talk about derps today. Let me make sure. Hold on. Okay, now I have it pulled up on my screen. All right, cool. All right, derps. So derps, the Derp Bird OG collection was minted. Launch day was September 17th. There was a collection of 10,000 of these Derp Birds. They have, let me get my thoughts straight. Yeah, so 10,000 collection. They have what's called 14 different archetypes. I know some people say that we're different than others, but so 14 different archetypes, which make up the different set of traits in the Derp Bird. There are 7 different locations or traits. There's the head, the eyes, the beak, the ears, the body, the back, and the tail. Those 7 different traits make up everything on the Derp Bird, but there's 14 different traits you can have on them. So they range from different things, from from Astro to Dave. These are the 14 types. There's Astro, Dave, Magic, Ninja, Redneck, Stoner, DJ, Viking, Monk, Corpo, Cyborg, Buff, Mad Scientist, Deity. So there's actually 9,999 derps, and then there's a one of one called a Ghost derp. That one was minted on mint day and has never sold. It stays with the same holder. So the collection is 10,000. All these traits, the way the Derp Birds did the rarity is there are some traits that are more common than others. There are some traits that are more rare than others. The rarest trait on a Derp Bird is the Deity trait. The Deity trait only makes up 114 total for each trait, like back, eyes, ears. It's only 114 total. Then the next rarest is Mad Scientist, and then it goes down the line. Buff, like I just said, I stated it in reverse. But those are kind of the rarity ranking in the derps. And if you have a combination of those traits, determines the overall rarity of the bird. So if you have a lot of common traits, then your Derp Bird will most likely be common. But you can have a bird that has a lot of common traits and, let's say, a deity trait on, say, his head or something. That could make it, an uncommon or even a scare bird, because that one trait kind of puts it up in the rarity rankings. So let me go over the rarity. So the rarity is common, uncommon, or the kind of hand in hand. So common and uncommon kind of go together. It's weird how that worked out, but they do. scares next. Then you have rare, epic, mystical, and legendary. Scare may seem a little weird. It's kind of a derpy thing. The meta data was supposed to be scarce, but they forgot the C, so they ended up just keeping it. So, uh, yeah, that happened in September. What else do I need to say about derps? Oh, there's perfect specimens. So what a perfect specimen is when you have all of the, say you have all of the magic traits, every single trait, all seven, head, beak, body, tail, whatever, all of them are magic. So that's a perfect combination. So that's considered a perfect specimen. And those are like the rare of the rare. There's, like I said, there's only 141 of those perfect specimens because you have every color and every color and every trait. So that's why there's 141 of them. Right now, there's only three, six, nine of them listed on secondary. Kind of go over where we're at now in the space. There's a floor of 205 for Derp Birds with over 2,500 owners. And there's only 187 listings as of today. Excuse me, sorry, I was drinking a little bit. So, what else do I need to know? What else do you need to know? I'm trying to think of making sure I'm covering everything for derps. And if I'm missing anything, guys, feel free to like raise your hand and be like, "Hey, what about this?" Because this is not just me talking. I want to discuss it with all of you guys as well. Uh, is there anything else with derps that need to happen? I'll move on to the next thing. So derps were launched in September, and that was exciting. I personally wasn't able to mint derps. I missed it by a day, and I was able to buy from secondary the next day. So uh, the derp sales is listening. Get out of here! You're supposed to get back to work. Uh, he needs to be working right now. Uh, so yeah, that's where I came in. I came in a day after mint, and I was hooked ever since. But after derps came derp eggs, and so like you heard in that little story, that lure story that I have that's stated at the beginning, there are no female derps in Derpatonia. I kind of made a little play off of that, saying that there were, but then they left, and then uh, this is why the eggs came about. So this is just my thoughts of why we have eggs. Because there's no females, how do derps reproduce? And the answer to that was the incubator. Now, this happened shortly after derps were launched. I I want to say, when did we get eggs? We got eggs on September 26th. The incubator went live, 2021. So what happens with the incubators, you would sign a transaction for whatever your derp. You choose derp, and you sign a transaction, and you get an egg. And correct me if I'm wrong. If there's anybody here, I want to say that the egg mint was it a normal mint, or was that a smart I think it was a normal type of mint. I don't remember exactly, but I do know that you selected your dirt bird and you got an egg from it. And what's cool about how that worked, well, I think that, yeah, so that changed with the derplings. Never mind, I'll keep it at that. So you got your egg, and what was funny is when we got our eggs, people were trying to figure out if we could see anything in the metadata or see anything in the way it looks, to determine like what kind of derpling we'll get. So out of these eggs came derplings, and we knew that, so we had to wait. We had to wait 14 days, I think it was, 14 days before we can hatch these eggs. And so there was 15,000 eggs total that could be created, and you could incubate your commons and your uncommons as many times as you wanted every 7 days until we reached the max of 15K. And so, um, but anything that was above common and uncommon, you can only incubate once. And so, say for example, you had a perfect specimen, that perfect specimen would incubate a perfect egg. So if you look at the eggs and you see any eggs that look different, that have like a special look to them, I think an egg the other day, a Astro egg sold for like, I don't know, I want to say like 500 or something like that, or 300. So those eggs look different. They were incubated by a perfect specimen, but every other egg looked kind of normal. It had either the triangle or the square, and so we were all debating on what that meant. Obviously, now looking back, we know that that was female or male derplings. And then there was also, I think it was like a whole thread dedicated to trying to figure out what all these symbols mean. So if you look at eggs, if you go to uh, the JPEG store, you can go there or you can look it up. Uh, so if you go to JPEG store, oh, right now, wow, the floor for eggs is 100. It's insane. So eggs were minted for 19. You would incubate your derp for 19 ADA. But if you look at the metadata, you'll see that the attributes, X chromosome, there's all kind of weird characters. So there was a whole thread in the Derp Discord trying to figure out and find some kind of uh, common denominator and figuring out what these characters meant. I think they spent like weeks trying to figure out what does this mean. And hindsight is we look back and we realize it absolutely meant nothing, that they were trolling us, that it was just a random set of characters. It absolutely meant nothing to what was actually inside of the egg, which is funny because we spent so much time. I remember Fly Off doing all kind of coding and math and everything. Uh,
Yeah. Dude, that was funny. Now that you
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
that, because I remember busting my head and even reaching out to Fly Off because he was putting something together. I like, she's gonna break it. We're gonna figure this shit out.
And then we hatch them and we realize, oh, it means absolutely nothing. And I'm sure the devs are laughing and having a fun time watching us rack our brains over trying to figure out what this means. So the only,
That was probably something like a art scheme. He likes
yeah,
trolling,
yeah,
dude. He had me one time when he was doing them Pred trash cans, looking like them
oh
Roombas.
yeah.
I like, oh, he's trolling. He's trolling with my emotions right
Yeah.
now.
So when looking back, we know for sure that the only indicator was the square and the triangle. So the square, I believe, was the male derplings, and the triangle was the female derplings. Other than that, the only physical indication was that, like I said, the perfect eggs, and those were hatched either from a perfect specimen, or you had a 1% chance, even as a common or anyone that was incubated, you had a 1% chance to get a random perfect specimen egg. Later on, we figured out that it wasn't random. Uh, Probably up until, I want to say, so there's 15K eggs. I think I personally found out about that when we were at, I want to say like 12K eggs hatched. So we had like 3K left. So what happened was they figured out, someone in the community probably figured out way before I did, of course, but it kind of became like more public knowledge the more we talked about it in the general, that um, every 100 eggs it would be a perfect egg. So the cool thing about this was we would be watching the Cardano scan and seeing what number egg everyone was on. And so, like, say, let's for example, let's say it was at 12,990 eggs. We knew in 10 more eggs, it's going to be a perfect egg. So there was like a mad rush to incubate our derps to try to get that 13,000 or try to get that 13,100 egg. And so like it was cool. It was a cool little game. Like we were like, all right, it's coming up, and then like people would send in their incubators, and there was because it took so long uh, to like file in the information of when the eggs. It was just like kind of a like you're just shooting in the dark. Hopefully, you're that one that gets incubated at that point. So that was a fun time.
Yeah, yeah. You even had to time the blockchain. Sometimes I would try to start it around 80
Hmm.
and got close, and I was like, shit.
Yeah,
Next
did it
time
too
next
early.
time I wait around.
Sometimes you do it. Yeah, you do it at 80, and it'd be way too early, and you're like, crap. And then what was cool is because if you didn't have if your derps weren't ready, you only had like a certain like if you didn't have commons and uncommons, and they weren't ready, then you only had like one chance if you had a scare above to do it that one time. But most of the ones that were doing it that late were the commons and uncommons at that point.
Yeah.
So
At that time, I was just using the date backs
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah. So
they would just give you double.
another cool thing is that we the Dave back. So if you look, Dave back is the most common trait in derps. So the Dave back though is the derps that have the eggs on their back. And there was the funny thing about that was I think I don't and Dave could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the initial uh, Dave back utility was something they thought of early on because
I don't believe so neither because there was a lot of chanting and writing of chanting for something with the eggs. I mean, even the guy speculating on the magic
yeah,
ear,
yeah, yeah. They
they
all thought
had
that was an egg in the
well,
ear.
that's the golden egg.
Yeah,
That's the golden.
yeah,
Hey
yeah.
guys, good morning.
What's up, Dave?
Yo, how's it going, guys? I'm at a coffee shop, so I can't be super loud like I normally am.
Oh, you
Yeah,
know
the
how
Dave
weird this is going to
backs,
be if people hear you talking about Derp Birds and
dude.
have no idea what you're saying.
I was recently hanging out with Cosmo from Pendulum at the same coffee shop, and it's a very quiet coffee shop, and we're sitting there
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about NFTs. People were
Oh
getting
my
really mad.
gosh.
They were getting really mad. It's a very hipstery, quiet coffee shop. Anyways, on the Dave backs, oh my God, yeah, people are gonna think I'm so weird talking about Dave backs and eggs and birds. Um, yeah, on the Dave backs, yeah, that was not an idea we had. That we were just like
Cool.
reading general chat and yeah, just playing with, just go running with those ideas that you guys came up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all you guys.
Yeah, so what Dave's saying is like in general, we're like, man, what do these date backs mean? Is like because we knew incubation was coming up, uh, or at least the thought of it. We knew there was something, and so the date backs were like, man, what if these Dave backs can get like extra eggs or I don't know remember exactly like how we settled on like oh yeah well I think you guys the team decided finally like oh yeah the utility for these Dave backs would be that you get uh you have a 50% chance to get another egg so it wasn't always uh a guarantee but the cool thing about having those Dave backs is most of the time they were on commons or uncommon derps, so they could be incubated every 7 days. But there are other derps that were scare above, and so uh, you could have a mystical. I think there's a mystical date back. Let me check. Um, so the cool thing about that is if you had a mystical with a Dave back, let me check and see if that's a thing. I'm pretty sure it might be. No, there's no mystical. So it was I think the highest was a rare epic. So there's epic. So you could have the chance as an epic, even though you're only supposed to incubate once with that dirt bird and get one egg, you had the chance to get two with that epic, which is really cool. Uh, so yeah, so the date backs were a thing that you can get a 50% chance to get another egg. And so what Smokey was talking about is whenever we figured out that the perfect eggs were every 100 eggs up until 15K. So people with daybacks would start incubating because they had a chance to get two. So it would better your odds that you were landing on that 100th spot and getting that perfect egg. And so that was a fun time.
Yeah, it's something. The perfect egg every 100 was not something we announced, and we didn't think anyone would pick up on that.
Yeah.
And only like one or two people reported it. They were worried that it was going to be exploited, and we decided not to fix it because I mean that's sort of like some of my favorite like gaming experiences over
Yeah.
the years have been like
Yeah, the cheat
finding
code.
yeah, it's like finding out those things that the devs didn't fix. And so yeah, we decided to leave it in and let those who really paid a lot of attention to it like get to take advantage. So yeah, it was really cool to see people figure that out.
Yeah, I think the most exciting time was doing that. Like I remember I remember, oh man, it was once like the majority of people figured that out, it was like a mad rush to like get that 100 spot. And then the after it was done, we were like, who got it? Who got the perfect egg? And then like then it would things would slow down and you have, the people that were constantly incubating because looking back at it now, incubating every 7 days on the dot with your derps was a huge advantage because look at eggs now. They're at 100 floor and it costs 19 to incubate them. So looking back now, like I wish I would have done that earlier on, incubating all of my derps. Um, but yeah, those that were doing it would, the number would increase and then we get closer to that 100th again. And then there would be a mad rush to try to get that perfect egg. And the cool thing about that is, yeah, the perfect eggs were cooler looking and more aesthetically pleasing, but you had the chance to hatch that into a better dirtling. And even now, that perfect egg goes for more market. Plus, another thing that the utility for that was it added more battle preparedness points for pred invasion. So there was just so much happening during that time that was really cool to see. So the eggs were being incubated. Um,
Yeah,
we
I think the
got
other cool thing too, another cool benefits like those perfect eggs is, if I'm not mistaken, and actually I can just pull up the app and look at the staking XP values for every trait. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it's those perfect eggshells on the derplings themselves are some of like the biggest rewards in terms
yeah
of
for
XP you
derps.
can get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
another cool bonus.
yeah. So because there's only I don't even how many was there like a solid number for how many perfect eggs there would be, or it was kind of at the mercy of there's okay, so there's 141 perfect specimens. So if every one of them, it just depended on if they incubated or not. So there wasn't like a set number, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
you could sort of calculate. That's also been another fun thing about a lot of the stuff that we've done is we have no idea what
yeah.
you guys are going to do
It
when
depends
we're
on
when
what
we're
we do.
planning it.
Yeah,
Exactly. And we speculate and we spend a lot of time like, oh, this it would be cool. Like when we first came up with the eggs and the shards idea and everything, we did speculate. We're like, oh, well, I mean, September looked completely different. The space looks totally different
yeah,
than it does now.
yeah,
But
yeah. Cool.
it was interesting to think about, like, yeah, what's going to happen when the supply of eggs gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and but with the perfect eggs, yeah, it just all depended upon what you guys did. Given that there was one perfect egg every 100
Hmm.
incubations, and you could do the math and figure out how many would come from that. But then on top of that, yeah, it just depends upon if the perfect specimen holders wanted to
Yeah,
take the virginity of their of those birds.
yeah. And so that
Get
was.
some weird looks.
Don't say that too loud in the coffee shop. That
Imagine
was
myself picturing taking the virginity out of a bird.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was some fun times because like that's another thing. That's what's cool about the Derp Birds project is every aspect of the project along the way there was it left you left it in the hands of the holder whether or not they wanted to participate or not and how they wanted to participate. So this is a pure example of that is do you incubate your Derp Birds? Because if you didn't incubate your Derp Birds, they were considered a virgin bird, and that virgin bird created a certain value later on. And that was another thing the community was talking about. I was like, oh, well, if I'm not going to incubate mine because mine's going to be virgin, it'll be it'll be worth more in secondary, or it'll have better utility later on. And that was all speculation at the time, but that was something that you guys, of course, looked at and paid attention to and provided the utility for those virgin birds later on. Like right now, people that are trying to do pred conversion are looking up whether or not their derps are virgin or not. And so, because those virgin birds give you a better chance to get a higher rank pred, which we'll talk about later. If you're hearing all these words and like, what the heck is he talking about? We're going to get to that. We're just on the very beginning of where derps started. So so the gamified portion of whether or not I want to incubate, and then also whether you wanted to keep that egg and not hatch it, because from the moment incubation started with eggs, once that egg was incubated, it had a 14-day timer. And so the early incubated eggs, if the person chose to do this, they would be the first ones to get their derplings. And so after 14 days, we were able to hatch those eggs into derplings. And that time, I think, was that those, I think it was like a month from when incubation started to whenever all the derplings were hatched. Um, that time, I think, in derps was the craziest as far as floor action, utility, gamified experience. Uh, just it was just a on and like you, I know you guys talked about it. You wish you would have spaced it out more. I think as a holder, as a dev team, you guys wish you would have spaced it out more. But as a holder, that time was exciting. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. I think too, like given how immature the space was at the time, right? Like no one was doing, well, I shouldn't say no one, very few people were doing anything like what we were trying to do. So with how many things we launched from the OG launch to then the incubator and then the hatchery using multi-sig in such a short period of time, there was just so much to be excited for. So yeah,
Yeah.
Discord was super crazy and wild, but yeah, it was a really fun time.
Yeah, so to get into that, the hatchery started, and guys, this I think the hatchery was I guess like not the pinnacle, but the like launching pad for derps, and why we see where we're at today is because that hatchery and that process was multi-sig, and for a quick, very quick, from a non-technical background person, this is an explanation. Multi-sig means simply multiple signatures. And so what would happen is you would bring your egg, and so you bring your egg to the hatchery, and then you would send that egg into the hatchery, and it would hatch into a derpling. And what would happen is there would be multiple signatures or multiple, actually you call them transactions taking place. So that egg would be burnt, but then you would receive a derpling based on that egg at the very same time. So I would go into the hatchery, click the egg, click hatch, and in a matter of, I want to say, I recorded it and somebody else did, in a matter of 3 to 4 seconds, that egg went up the tube, and there was a cool animation for it. It went up the tube, and then bam, your derpling would pop up. It would show what the derpling looked like, all the traits it had, and then if you look in your wallet, it was there. So that was the first multi-sig mint that happened, and it was huge. It may have not got the attention that it did at the time, but I think looking back now, that was just a huge platform to launch off of, and showing that, derps aren't just derpy; they have amazing technology behind it.
Oh, dude, I agree with you 100%. That was huge. That was a huge moment, man. It was
Yeah,
exciting. It was even exciting going into the Discord and watching stream of other people going through it because I've already ran out of it. Oh, but it was a huge moment, and seeing the transaction, and the thing I like, it has gotten better. When I
yeah, yeah.
recently played my derps token, that happened so fast. I
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
shock.
Yeah, I remember doing some of my incubations, my hatchings on a Discord share screen, and it was really cool, like to be able to just oh, I'm gonna choose this egg, and then it shows it on screen like immediately, and like having people like, yeah, that looks cool, that's awesome. Like just being able to imagine like doing mitts on Cardano and not being like, okay, I send in the money to this address, I gotta wait 3 or 4 hours to receive it. That's like very anticlimactic, you know. But to be able to do what's called multi-sig and have it happen instantly. Now, granted, there were hiccups and birthing pains for multi-sig, but uh, it really was a cool experience because it's like your IRL opening of Pokemon cards or anything of that nature. Like you have this pack, you're ready to open it, and imagine if you had to open a Pokemon pack and you had to wait 3 or 4 hours to find out which cards you had. That would suck. Like that wouldn't be any fun. And so that's why multi-sig was just such a huge thing for Dirts, is because the moment I signed that transaction, I saw that egg go up the little tube, and then my Derpling popped out. And if people would have realized the how great that was at that moment, uh, I think it would have been a completely different story for Dirts. But you know, hindsight, we look back and we see that there wasn't that much hype around it. The community loved it. I loved it, and eventually it got the attention that it deserves. And even now, doing multi sig with the Derp claiming that exchange, even with the Pred invasion, like those things. Oh man, it's just gotten better and better and better. And so yeah, Derplings happen. And the cool thing about Derplings is it took basically DNA and traits from the derp that you incubated and applied it to what the derpling had. There is a I don't have the image with me, and you guys of course can't see it, but there was a if somebody wants to post that image in general in Discord, that'd be great. The image of the incubator itself, and like it shows like the derps on one side of the conveyor belt going into the machine, and then it shows like one of the things that was cool is if you had a white derp, which was the is the most rare color of derps. If you had a white derp, you were guaranteed 100% that you would get a white derpling. So anyone that had a white derp, they knew, oh, I'm gonna have a white derpling. This is gonna be, you know, one of the rare colors of the derpling and have more value. But then you also had the chance, even if you weren't, you had the chance to get a white derp from uh, a different colored derp. So there was like a different charts that explain how these traits were passed on to the derplings. And thank you, Highwind, I appreciate it. So you can see that um, on the first chart, if you're looking in Discord general, I know this is gonna be hard for anybody listening, but if you're in the Derp Discord general, it shows the chart where it goes from legendary, mystical, epic, rare, scare, uncommon, and common. The ones at the bottom shows that you can incubate once every 7 days, and you had a certain luck percentage to get certain types of derplings, and then it shows the color chart. If you had a white, you had a 100% chance. If you had a blue, you had a 10% chance to get a white. Like it just kind of was an inverse chart right there. And on the third point, we still don't know. There's still speculation about what this is and what's happening with this. I guess we'll find out eventually. But the ghoster could incubate an egg, and there is a ghost egg out there. No telling what that does because it shows a whole bunch of broken stuff. So we don't know what happens when you hatch that thing or if you can hatch it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. But then number four is it shows that your perfect specimen PS gets you a perfect egg. Um, and then the non-perfect specimen had a 1% chance to get the P egg. We talked about that earlier. Every 100 was that perfect egg. And then number five, if you had Dave back, you had a chance to 50% chance to get another egg. And then number six, what is that? Number six is just how many eggs could be incubated. 15,000 was the most, and then once we reach that 15K, after 14 days, you could hatch it, and then that's when we come to one of the another collection, I guess you can say, is the egg shards. So even though you had an egg and you go to hatch it, there was a 1% chance that it would fail, that you would not get a derpling from that hatching, and it sucks. Like, oh man, I want a derpling, But the cool thing about that was that you didn't get a derpling, but you got what was called an egg shard. And there was only 75 of these because if you do the math, out of the 15K eggs, there can only be 7,500 derplings. And so every 1% of 7,500 is 75. So there's 75 shards. And those 75 shards, um, if you collect 25 of them, you can get a special treasure. There's one person in the community, Benji, that has 25 of these shards, and he has yet to collect that treasure. And so, us as a community, we're waiting. We're excited to see what that is and what it may be. Um, and so, there's that. So there's still a chance that someone can collect another 25, but some of these shards were used in the pred conversion, so there's even a less chance that somebody else can get this treasure. Um, and yeah, as far as derplings are concerned, uh, I don't want to gloss over it, but the derpling hatching and incubation portion, the pred, which of course is derp spelled backwards, are the enemy of derps. And one of the cool things I thought, one of the trailers for derplings, they made it into like kind of this get ready to hatch your derpling and kind of like an infomercial how to video, old school video that tells you, you know, what you need to do. And then like at the beginning, it cuts to Pred overtaking the video and saying, "No, we've hacked into your incubator. Your derplings are ours. Derps will perish," kind of thing. And so what was cool about that is that they infected the hatchery and the incubation, and so the derplings would come out with Pred traits. Some of them would have different Pred traits that they were infected with. And also another cool thing they added was the collaboration traits. The Pred said that they went to alternate dimensions and grabbed these traits, and that these traits would be applied to the derplings. And so you had collaboration traits, which it's a funny thing that we joke about now, but a majority of those collab traits from the projects that they come from, some aren't doing the best that they can be. I'll just put that simply, and we kind of consider that the Derpling collab curse. So almost every Derpling collab has struggled, and there's one that still remains on top. Of course, is Space Buds, but all the others have had their. I say collab. Yes, I don't say collab. Stop, Millie. Um, but yeah, so there's that. That's that fun little feature there that the traits from that were brought on by the pred, and so there was infection inside the derplings. Like I said, there's only 7,500 derplings, and so that left 7,500 eggs. So man, what do we do? Like people are asking, what's going to happen with these eggs? And the devs, of course, said there'll be future utility. You can count on that. We're going to do something with these eggs. And you fast forward, oh man, I want to say, well, let me not forget. So before Pred, so I was going to talk about why the 7,500 eggs are important. But even before Pred, one of the things I guess to some is controversial, but to others is an amazing thing that the dev teams needed to do. And I think it was needed, and I think it was something that was cool. Was Derp Apes. That's the next collection, and the Derp Bird timeline, I guess you can say. Derp Apes came along, and it was just a meme inside general. Just talking. Hey, it was at a time whenever there was like every other day there was an ape project being launched on Cardano, and the artist James. Uh, of course, saw that, and he drew like there was like a picture. I think I still have it somewhere of like four different derp apes. We called them drapes, just joking around. And like he showed them, and like the general freaked out. They're like, "Oh, these look awesome. These are funny." Even though like we were making fun of like how many ape projects there were in Cardano, like we loved them, And so we were just kind of laughing about that. And we are like, "What if this is real?" kind of thing, and joking. And then like I don't know, I want to say like a few weeks later, they were like, "You know what? You know, y'all want this? And then boom, they dropped the link to a site, and basically the whole idea behind it was they wanted to test the multi-sig technology in preparation for other things that came later on the roadmap. And so what they did was they used this multi-sig uh, test meant to test out their technology, and they didn't want to hype it up too much, but they just kind of secretly dropped it, and then it spread like wildfire. It was crazy how many people, how many new members we saw join. Like, what is this? Is this from the Derp Birds team? Can I trust that? Like, because it was just so secret, and then all of a sudden it just happened, and people saw it being minted on pool, and so Derp Apes happened, and it was basically just a funny little meme that put kind of the derpy side of things into apes.
You,
And
you remember you remember when we got the collection verified on JPEG Store, and
yes,
that's
I do.
you guys there's like all this drama and everything because if you typed derp in JPEG Store search, you would see derp apes, and
Mm-hmm.
so we didn't like the we when I talked to the team at JPEG Store, I asked them to get everything ready to verify, but not to verify, not to push the collection or
And they
like the
did.
policy ID. Yeah, and they did. So it's sort of they sort of rugged us in a way. Like
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
stole the thunder a little bit. But yeah, yeah. Good summary on Derp Apes there. There's a lot more backstory to it. Like I don't think I've ever really shared it, but I was really against doing Derp Apes personally.
Yeah,
It was a James thing. Like he loved the idea. He had so much fun drawing them. We knew we needed to test multi-sig, so it made a lot of sense. And then the community was having so much fun with them that eventually I was like, you know what, let's do it. Like it was,
yeah.
and I'm glad we did. We brought in, a lot of new people joined the community because they,
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the Derp Babes. So looking back, like I think it was the right thing to do. But at the time, yeah, and I don't think it's anything we ever shared. Like we were a bit torn internally on whether or not to do it. But yeah, I think in hindsight, it was well worth it. It's been a
Yeah,
ton of fun.
looking back, it was a, I want to say it was a win in all aspects because you brought in a fresh art style, which everybody loves. Like that art style, if you don't like drapes or not, you can't deny that the art style was a fresher look. And it's something that carried over into the Pred collection. And that's something that, it'll be an updated art style for Derps 2.0. So that in itself, just that alone set that standard. So that was cool. But then, like you said, it brought in some community members now that we have just because of drapes. Like they came in just because of that, and they fell in love with the community. And of course, most of them bought into other collections because they saw the value in. You're on stage, CDC, because you requested to speak. So I just have you sitting there. If you want to ask questions, you can. But so yeah, the Derp Apes brought in that, and not only that, it of course let you guys test this technology, which was crucial for where you guys were going to go later in the project and where we are now. At the time, people may have, some may have disagreed with another collection, but I from a holder standpoint, I completely understand it, and it was a huge thing for the collection for
I
Derps
mean,
as a whole.
had we never done them, then what would Flacco do all day long? Like, what would he
Exactly.
even spend his time on if he couldn't make all these
You know,
gifs?
I'll
Like,
I'll I'll make this bold statement. If Dirt Apes never happened, then Flacco would be he would be 100% a wolf right now. He would not be a Dirt Ape.
What I say was saying.
He'd have been gone. He'd have been gone a long time ago. No, I love you, Flacco. Uh, but yeah, so Dirt Apes happened. There was 888 Dirt Apes, 888. Those came on, and at the time, when new people joined, they were like, "Man, is there a utility?" And as an OG community member, and many people in the community were like, "Well, there's not right now, but you never know with this team." And of course, that's always the sentiment. You never know what's going to happen, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it makes it fun as a holder, because there's just that surprise element that maybe this will have utility, or maybe it won't. Maybe it's just a drop that just was for testing, or like not having that kind of surprise is a fun to be a holder, because if everything was so concrete and set in stone, like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this and do this, it, and you follow that to a T, that's good, but there's no like deviation, and it makes it too cookie cutter in a way, and I don't think that's what derps are. So
Yeah, it brings up it's a really good point too, and something that, to be honest, it's always been sort of a struggle. Is I mean, like, you guys remember the one, like the roadmap that we put out, like the interactive Figma prototype you can
yeah, yeah, yeah.
horizontally scroll through. Like, we it put so much time into making that, and as most of you guys know, we've deviated so far from that, and
Mhm.
there's a number of reasons why. And oftentimes we get to either we find out that pursuing an idea that we had thought about is not safe for us to do, whether it's for legal reasons, or maybe it's going to cost too much to build that, or it would take way too long for us to do it, or we just find out that we just get to the point where we think it's no longer a good idea. And
Yeah,
so one thing that we've actually sucked about lately has just not been, and there was a bit of chit chat this morning in Discord about this, is like,
yeah, yeah,
where are we going? What are we doing?
yeah,
And so we definitely owe, um, uh, we owe the community a solid update. I'm torn on whether or not we're going to do a white paper. It's so much work to write, and you guys know me. If I do something, if I write a proper white paper, it's going to be like 300 pages long,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I'm going to put literally hundreds of hours into that. But
yeah,
we do owe the community sort of a general direction on like where we're going with things, for sort of a high level update. But I want to touch on the point that you were making there, though, is yeah, it is sort of the flexibility we have, the directions we can take things right now with the app and with the Derp token and everything.
yeah,
I've been chatting with some people one on one about some different ideas. Now that we have the app and we have the Derp token, it's such an awesome foundation for
mhm,
so many different. I mentioned this in the announcement yesterday. Sort of lesser features and even some major features that we can deliver on, and being stuck to one particular direction on the roadmap that we have to pursue. I think there are some really big projects that have committed to really big ideas, and whether those ideas are still valid and smart or not, it's too late. They're already stuck
yeah,
going to, and that's a big reason why the faction war, for example, we're taking our time. If
yeah. Oh
what we
yeah,
want to do with the faction war is so big that we need to make sure that it's going to be the right thing to do, and that it's not going to completely tank the project. So yeah, I wanted to throw that
yeah,
out there for people who are. There's been some recent discussion about roadmap and such, and I think that's an
yeah.
important point.
And just to kind of piggyback what you just said, it makes sense. So like imagine if y'all stuck exactly to that Figma roadmap. Then that would mean that we would have faction wars before everything with Derp and the token and the app and all that. So like you look back and you see, man, if they you have to be flexible as a business, as someone especially in NFTs, and how fast things move and how fast things change. You got to be flexible, because if you stick to the teeth everything you say, you may it may hinder you later on. Be like, man, I wish I'd have did this different or put this in this order. But oh man, we put it in the roadmap. We have to stick to it. There's a certain flexibility that you need as a project to do things. And looking back, I completely understand it, because you have to have the Derp token and the exchange and the app well oiled and figured out and ironed out before pred customization, before faction wars, because that, like you said, that foundation is what's going to make those other things better. If you did it out of order, it would just, you do the faction wars, do the pred customization, and you don't have the Derp token or whatever. It has to be in a certain order, and I think you guys are doing a great job with that, because it's easy to say, well, oh, you should have did this or did that, but when you look at the way things have gone up to this point, it all makes sense. It's coming together. Now, granted, in my mind, I was thinking that faction wars would come before Derp 2.0, but now that I hear what you guys are saying with how the app and everything's going, I understand that Derp 2.0 needs to happen before faction wars because that means that derps are on open policy, and I imagine that's something that y'all want to use or utilize in faction wars. Now, this is just for me as a holder speculating. I don't know anything for sure, but yeah, Dave, you can touch on it if you want.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and I don't want to derail your the breakdown here that you're going through,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, it's tricky because like we try to balance, and I think I've talked a bit about this recently, maybe on CJ's podcast and such. Um, Trying to balance features that are one. The types of features, I mean, there's really two types of features outside of the classification that I just defined in yesterday's announcement. There are features that are going to um, be very specific for our community. You talked about derplings. The reason why there wasn't a lot of hype on derplings was two main reasons. One, we didn't talk about it as much as we should have.
yeah, yeah,
And you know, we could have. There were people like Alex who were like hounding me every day to get out there and like publish papers about
yeah,
multisig. And of course, we probably should have done that. There's only so many hours in the day. And the other reason why it didn't do so well is um, I mean, you look around other projects, like there's very, very, very few examples of a second or third or fourth drop in a project that generates very much hype. It's pretty rare. You know, like using Clay Nation, for example, the Good Charlotte collection versus the OG Clays, like,
yeah, yeah.
you know, it's very, I don't, I mean, I can only think of really one example where this second collection did better. And um, so we sort of have to balance, and I think this is sort of us being good stewards of the project. And but this may not be something that every holder understands. We need to balance sets of features that one attracts new people into the project,
Mm-hmm.
um, and balance that with delivering features that are for our community. And the projects that are for our community are going to be like the things like the Pred Armory with being able to customize your Pred. I can't wait for
Yeah,
that.
that'd be
Like
community
like
driven for sure.
Exactly. I personally want that feature so much. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be fun for us. It's going to be fun for the existing Derp Birds community. Those of us who are on this call, on this Twitter
Hmm.
space right now, who are following the project, who love the story, like that's going to be a lot of fun for us. It's not going to attract a lot of, just like Pred. Pred is it was the most complex
Yeah,
transaction, like most complex, the super immersive experience, right? To go through that, it didn't, you know, people, we knew going into it like we weren't going to attract new people into the project from it, but we still had to deliver on that feature. We still had to bring Pred to life. And so
yeah,
we have to really think about like how do we balance those features that our community that we want, those of us who've been in the project since the start, versus things that we can do to draw new people in. And Derpers
yeah,
2.0 is sort of is both. It hits both,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
why I'm
yeah.
super excited for it. Because one, you guys have recently heard me talk. I keep giving you guys like two reasons for everything I'm saying. So for two reasons, you know, Derp Birds 2.0, it sort of hits both requirements there. And the reason why it satisfies our community is because it is a part of the story. It's this immersive. It'll be another really fun immersive experience, and also you guys get to see like this evolution of these assets you've been holding. Some of you since September.
Hmm.
And it's an upgrade in every sense of the word. It's going to be a huge upgrade for the OG collection. We're super excited for that for our community. But the other thing is, you guys have heard me talk about this. One of the most common things that we've heard, and we heard that in what's the Twitch stream that we were just watching last night, the YouTube video that we were watching. It's from
Freedom.
yeah, Freedom's channel. You literally heard them say it. Like, oh yeah, when Derp Birds came out back in September, I didn't meant,
Yep,
or I meant it. I
yep,
thought they looked kind of ridiculous, but I meant to make it.
yeah, yeah.
That's been the most common critique is the art style,
Hmm.
and we think we can't know for sure. The NFT world is impossible to predict, but we think that by basically reimagining and re-envisioning the entire OG collection, yeah, it'll be something that has a much larger, broader mainstream appeal to other people. So it's the perfect feature. It's like the perfect next best feature for us to pursue. Um,
Yeah,
so anyway, sorry again, I'm derailing here, but I just wanted to say that like yeah, balancing features that are one attractive to the broader community, people who maybe just like the raffle shop, right? That's a big part of the raffle shop. One,
hmm,
it's to reward you guys, but two, it's to attract
bring
new
in other
people who are like,
people.
okay,
Yeah,
I don't like the Dirt Birds roadmap, but that's a pretty cool feature. And so we think it's us being good stewards of the project to pursue features that will grow the community. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Sorry to derail.
No, you're good. You're good. And yeah, it makes all kind of sense because like, yeah, Derp 2.0 has to come before that other stuff so that you have both the Derps and the Preds ready to go for Pred Armory, for Faction Wars. So yeah, and to highlight, yeah, Derp 2.0, I personally do like the art of the OGs, but like you said, there's a lot of people outside that the moment they click are like, I don't know. But it's gonna be really cool to see the reaction to Derp 2.0, and to see that, to see OGs be excited for it, community members be excited for it, but then to also see, outside people get excited for it. And I'm looking forward to it and to continue on this journey. So, I don't want to go too long because I don't want this to be like something that when somebody clicks on it, oh, it's 2 hours long. I'm not gonna listen to the whole thing. But so to kind of wrap things up after Derp Apes, there was a kind of like and in every project, I think there was a lull from, I guess, I want to say like February or April, no, February till about April. And in April is when Preds started, I believe. And so what the Preds are, if you weren't listening earlier, Preds are basically the enemies of Derp. Derp spelled backwards. It's another community thing that someone came up with, and that they, asked, suggested this name. And so Preds are invading Derpatonia. So to kind of talk about the lore of it, Preds are invading Derpatonia finally. They hacked into the incubation. They messed up some of the Derpling traits, and now they're finally invading Derpatonia. They reached to where they can invade. And so what's happening now, and it's still ongoing, is the Pred, what we call the Pred invasion. So early on, so I talked about there's 15,000 eggs, and 7,500 of those eggs are derplings. And so the way that the devs did this was for the Pred conversion, they allowed there can only be a max of 5,000 Pred. And so 2,500 of those would be derplings, and 2,500 of those would be Derp Birds. And so what you had to do early on, it probably, I think it went within like a week, the derplings were all converted. So you use a derpling and an egg. That was the minimum you could use to convert a Pred, a derpling and an egg, or a Derp Bird and an egg. And what was cool about the Pred conversion was that depending on the stats or the traits of that particular derpling, or that egg or the Derp Bird, depending on those traits, it gave you a certain score or points to get a certain rank Pred. So there's 4 ranks in Pred. There's rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4. Rank 4 being the highest. And what that means is that when you are rank 1, you have no gear. You're just a bare Pred, but you have certain, looks and attributes. When you're rank 2, you have what's called a headgear. You'll notice that on some of the Pred, they have stuff on their forehead or like a mohawk or something. That's a rank 2 Pred. Rank 3, you have the headgear and the back gear. You'll see like uh, a weapon or a staff or something on their back. That would be considered rank 3. And then rank 4 would be both of those plus front gear. Some of them were guns, some of them were broken arms or just kind of different things. You'll see that. And so what happens when you convert those Preds, you get a certain score and a certain percentage. You could get possibly a 1% chance to get a red rank 4 if you just did a Derpling and an egg, or if you just did a Derp Bird and an egg. That was only like a 30 score, but you had the 1% chance to get a rank 4. And so it was really cool to see different people do different strategies. Some people loaded up a lot of eggs and had a Derp Bird and they got rank 4. Some of them loaded up 1 egg and they got a rank 4. So it was just a really cool way to do a mint, a very complex way to do a mint. But I'm telling you, I don't think, and I might be biased, but I don't think I've seen a mint like that and had that much fun. Like literally, we still today we see people buy a Derp Bird because now Derplings are all capped out. We see people buy a Derp Bird and an egg, and they'll come in the chat and be like, "Hey, who wants to see a conversion?" Like we'll all jump into the voice channel and watch them stream because again, multi-sig allows you the chance to do that conversion and see it instantly. So you jump in there, we cheer them on, and see people convert their derps to preds and see what they get. It's kind of like the lottery or like a like spin of the wheel. What are you going to get kind of thing. And so that's the huge impact that multi-sig has for stuff like this. Is you get community around you watching you do those things. It's really really cool. And
Well,
so yeah, go ahead.
dude, saying watching that and reminding talking about the egg recently. I was watching on the Discord. Who was it? I know it's a whale. He got a lot of eggs hatching and decided to go on a combination. All right, I'm gonna do 3 triangles, 4 triangles, still trying to figure it out using the triangles or square,
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
see who was it. But
I'm not
it's so
sure.
fun.
Yeah.
Just one.
So yeah, and it should be. That's what's cool about derps. And like I said, I'm coming from this from a bias standpoint, and there may be other projects out there that are fun to holders. But that's what it should be. Your project should be fun to your holder, not just a PvP that they put up on Twitter or they whatever on Discord. It should be fun to hold a project, and that's what derps is to us. There's so many different things. Like I said, right now we're currently minting pred. There is a cap. I don't. We aren't there yet. Let me look up derp. Let me look up preds real quick. We are currently at 35. Now this is just according to JPEG Store 3580. So there is still technically a chance for quick maths here. 1320 more pred to be converted. And so that's still ongoing right now. And so that is all of the collections of derp birds. There's the OG derps, eggs, uh, derplings, egg shards, derp apes, and pred. And the reason we have those is because in the future, kind of heard it mentioned earlier, there's stuff like faction wars, which you can have your pred versus your derps, and they're fighting, and there'll be character slots, and I don't know all the details. Things may have changed, and things do change, but the idea is that these pred have invaded Derpatonia. Derps are like, we're not having it. We're gonna fight back, and so that kind of the lore aspect of it's really cool. You see people in Discord, they are all about preds. They're like, I'm pred all the way. There's some that are all about derps, and it's kind of like that camaraderie back and forth. Um, so yeah, that is the collection of derps. And if anybody has any questions or anything you want to ask, feel free to. If nothing is asked, then I will continue on to something I want to talk about that isn't derp related. So if there's anybody here that is here for that, we'll start talking about that here in a second. But if there's anybody that wants to ask questions, feel free to request, and I'll make sure I get you in there. I'll give it a second. Awkward pause.
Well, I saw a question today in the Discord.
Yeah.
Uh, why still the threads are not on CNFT tools?
I think Dave can speak to this, but just my thoughts on why is because they're currently still minting and
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
That's all it is. I was actually chatting with someone about this morning. With that being said, because it's slowed down, I did reach out to the CNFT tools team um, about an hour ago to get that process started. So that's all it is. It's just it's kind of a hassle if the project is being actively if it's still being minted. And so that's the reason why we were so keen to get it pushed up into the Explore page on the Derp Birds website so quickly, is so that
yeah,
there would be some sort of rare. I know it's not the same tools that CNFT tools provides, but yeah, that's all it was. It was just it's we have to like ping them every single time we want them to refresh the collection, and it's kind of an
yeah.
ordeal. And so we were just holding off. But
That
yep,
was that was the problem with Derp. Who was it? Was it I want to say, well, no, it was up for JPEG that whenever we were incubating eggs, if you'd incubate an egg and then go list it, it wouldn't pop up on JPEG store because it
Exactly.
wasn't, they had to refresh the collection because you just minted it. So it's very difficult for sites like that to, you mint a pred and then say you list it, it's not going to pop up on CNFT tools because they have to update, so you might have, 30 preds that are listed and just not showing because they were freshly minted.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big ordeal, and I know it sounds like a small thing, and it kind of is a small thing, but it's sort of death by a million paper cuts or whatever. There's so many things that we are managing right now, like daily. I mean, as the ecosystem grows, so Matt, here an example for you is as the ecosystem grows, right? We have the achievement system, we have like
Mhm.
this leveling system, we have Derp, we have all of these different factors. Like we have the staking system that's based off of the the collection size and how many traits. You guys understand how all that works. So imagine what's going to happen when we do rebirth, right? 2.0. Like
Yeah, yeah,
there's going
yeah,
to be a million small things that have to be updated daily as the people convert their OGs to 2.0s. So there's just this
yeah.
constant. There's so many little things. So when we put Pred on CNFT tools, it's just another one of those things. Just like eggs on JPEG Store, I was pinging them every day. I was asking them to refresh the collection,
Mhm.
refresh. And so the same on CNFT tools. I'm gonna get it listed for the community, and then I'm going to start getting DMs from people in the community. Rightfully so. I'm not complaining. Please reach out to me
Yeah,
anytime. But I'm going to start getting DMs from people say, oh, why can't I see my pred on CNFT tools? And
yeah,
people are going to
yeah.
be panicked for a good reason. And then I'm going to have to respond to them. Of course, I don't mind doing that. But what I'm saying is, it's just death by a million paper. Where these are just constant demands on time, which means we can't work on other things. So that's the reason why when we don't, it's my bad because we should communicate these types of things to the community, but oftentimes it's just that we have to think about like, okay, is there going to be a good return on investment for the community based on the time that we invest into this? And it's we have to make decisions sometimes, and we don't always get to do everything that we want. So that's the reason why I'm smoking.
Okay. I want to ask you a question, Dave, and this is from somebody in Discord. Um, Now, I think I know the answer, but I wanted to hear it from you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. Don't want you to start sweating in that coffee shop. But will the portal for Invasion be closed, or will it be open until we reach 5,000 pred?
I think we're going to leave it open now. We
Okay.
earlier this year we had talked about turning it off because things had slowed down
Yeah.
so much, not just with Pred
Yeah.
invasions, but you know there was definitely a lull after the Discord hack. We had to get things rolling again. And you guys all, again, if you're here in this Twitter space, you probably know this, but things had slowed down for the entire space in general, not just Derp Birds, but and so we thought, okay, we'll pause it. It doesn't make sense to, well, we had the option to pause it, but now things are sort of, the ball's rolling again. I'm happy to have my mind changed on this if someone has a really good reason for it. But at this point, we think we're getting, like, how many, I remember, I don't know the exact count for how many OGs have been swapped for Preds. But at this point, unless we may take it down momentarily. Like I think Geek is here on the. Oh, yeah. So right now he's in the process of moving a lot of our, I'm going to butcher this, but like he's in the process of like moving a bunch of our like back end cloud based systems to
Hmm.
literal local servers that he's recently purchased. And we're
Hmm.
doing that because it'll save us a lot of money over the course of a year. And so it's a big hassle. It's a huge pain. Yeah, I think Geek's excited to do it because he's a geek. But we've actually bought, invested in our own hardware server, so we can just host all this stuff ourselves and save a bunch of money doing. Well, that requires a lot of a lot. Anyway, sorry. The point I was making here is that things might get turned off for some period of time as
Yeah.
Geek migrates those. It may not be an issue at all, and I could be completely misrepresenting it. But yeah, to answer the question, we don't have any definitive plans to pause it at this point.
Yeah.
Hiya.
What's up, Cam?
How you doing? I've been here listening. I'm just poodling away in the Discord. But just one thing to bring up about the portal and the invasions is I'm definitely not against either way, pausing it, not pausing it, but something to point out is the fact of just the supply of eggs. There's like 1,400 Preds still to be minted, but there's only like 22 on the market, and I think that's just supply shock is terrible at the moment, and something that maybe needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one thing that we've known from the start is like when we did Pride, we knew we could never hit 5,000 invasions. There was, you guys remember back in the day, there was so much conversation about that. Like, there's all this speculation about could we even hit 5,000?
Yeah.
What were people going to do with their eggs? And you guys saw some of the invasions where people like go all out on eggs, and so we suspected we would never hit that. So I guess where you're getting with that, Com, is like if we hit if there's a point where just like I mean, I don't think we would turn it off just because they're, let's say the floor on eggs goes to 500 or 1,000 or something, and we in our minds we're like, yeah, no one's going to spend 1,000 ADA on buying an egg to do an invasion.
Yeah.
I don't think we would turn it off for that reason, but there will be, of course, a point where maybe we haven't seen an invasion in a month because Voix is holding literally every remaining egg left, other than the ones posted for 1,000 flow on JPEG Store. Then we might that's a good point, and we might say, okay, well, we're gonna bring it on for like 1 week out of a month or something. But yeah, so that's a good point. There's just a point where the eggs are just so inaccessible, and yeah, Voix will have like an entire black market ordeal like thing going on where he's like literally trading them away for ring 4 Preds or something. But yeah. It's a good point.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think like you said, and if y'all do decide to turn it off, then of course y'all would give a heads up. So that I think that in itself would cause a shock to like, oh man, they're Pred invasion is going to be closing at this time. Like, I'm going to sell some of the eggs I have that have been holding, or I'll try to buy the ones that are even listed for high because maybe I'll never get another, have the chance at another rank 4. So there's benefits and disadvantages to doing both. So it's a fine balance, and I understand y'all's position on that for sure. But yeah, guys, if there's any other questions, feel free to ask. I am going to kind of transition, and this is why I want to do this, and I don't want y'all to get the wrong idea. I wanted to leave this open for derps on the front end, because of course I love talking about derps, and there's so much that newcomers can learn from things like this that is a little bit more difficult to get answered in a Discord chat or a text or from a Twitter post or whatever. So like having these open discussions and talks could answer, plenty of questions that person may have had that they've asked many times before and never really got an answer to. So that's why I want to talk about derps in the front end. And there'll be different topics. Like, next week we could talk about, lore or story behind everything or whatever. Like there'll be different topics. But I wanted to end all these Twitter spaces with talking about maybe another project that I'm looking at or that the community's looking at getting into or whatever. So I'll transition to that now, because then that brings in people, if I'm in that Discord, and I say, hey, I'm doing a Twitter space, and I'll be talking about this project at the end of my Twitter space. Y'all should stop by, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So that's what, it's kind of a good way to market and communicate and get other new eyes and ears on derps and derps in those other projects if they want to do that, So I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk about, Cam, did you have something?
Can I just ask one question before you transition?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave, is it you? Is Art okay? We don't see him as much. I know obviously he had his job and everything. I just want to check that all's good and life's going well for him, really.
Yeah, he's good. We actually, today's Saturday, we'll be hanging out with him next week. So yeah, I talk to him almost daily. He does have a lot going on right now with his real life. You guys remember the announcement I made a few months ago where him and Geek sort of started looking for jobs, and he really, James Art really did not want to go back to sort of corporate gig. So it's been sort of a soul suck for him where he's just not enjoying it. But on top of that, his wife, who, as you guys know, used to also hang out a lot in Discord. Her name's Alyssa. She's also got a job now, so he's like stepping up and doing more stuff. Like, taking care. They have 2 kids. They have their baby, and then they have their much older son, who also used to hang out in Discord. So yeah, other than that though, he's good. He's just super busy with life. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Just at the end of the day, it's we've all been here a long time now, and I don't just see this as an NFT project. I see this as an extended family as such. So when people are missing for a long period of time for whatever reason, it's just check in sometimes. So it's just nice to hear that although he's busy, I think it's good. That's all, really.
Totally. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I will pass on the. I'll let people know that people are asking about it.
Yeah. So, and that's understandable. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself and your family and that kind of stuff first, before any of this. So, yeah, it's especially with how the economy and the whole world's going. Like, I completely understand that. So, yeah, we all love art. We all love you guys and Geek and Dave for what you guys are doing with this project, and we appreciate all the hard work y'all put in. I know Geek. Oh man, I know both of you guys have put in hours upon hours trying to get the Derp token and exchange and the web app, everything running and going and getting it ready for the next things, because you need that to get ready. So yeah, I'm going to kind of transition away from Derps for a second and talk about a project that I personally have been looking at, and y'all know me very well. I don't discuss other projects very often. Very rarely do I be like, man, I like this project, and there's a reason for that. I have high standards. I'm not trying to be like prideful or anything. It's just I don't jump into everything that most people do. And this is a project. The reason it caught my eyes because I see it's very similar to Derps in the way that they do gamification of the project. The project's called Raccoon Syndicate. Actually, as I speak right now, the whitelist is being minted. And just to touch a little bit on that, just very, very quickly, I see their the gamified side of things. They have what's called hold to earn, and basically by holding a raccoon, you're earning points. Depending on the rarity of that raccoon, you'll get more points, and they have like a leaderboard, and this leaderboard determines your ranking, of course, in the ecosystem. And depending on where you're at on that leaderboard, you will be rewarded every 2 months with a certain type of NFT. And now that NFT could be something that is customizable on your raccoon. It can be like a ring or a bracelet or a necklace, or it can be something that's like a consumable, like something you drink or eat that gives you a boost in your points multiplier so that you can go up in the leaderboard. And so like that just alone, just holding to earn is a cool concept because you don't, especially for me, like I work full time and I get home and I don't have time to play a game or log into something to make sure I'm doing this. Like just holding that asset is accumulating my points. Very similar to Derps. Just holding Derps is I'm accumulating my Derp token and my XP. I mean my XP that I can convert to Derp. And so just that alone is a huge thing for me. Is it makes it easier for someone that's busy or doesn't have time to play a game on their phone or on a computer. And one of the cool things about the raccoons is, of course, they're 3D. I personally am not a fan of 3D. Never really was. But after looking at some of the videos of the artist and what she does with this collection and how she does the art, it blows my mind what's capable in a program and what she's able to do with the 3D art. And it's very, very detailed stuff. If you go to their site and you look, you can do like the little zoom in thing. You can tell it's high quality stuff. And so that alone, I think, is a good indication of why their mint price is what it is. And but the art itself, there's no denying. If you look at it, there's no denying this was all organic, hand drawn stuff. There's no you can Google it, and I'm pretty sure you won't come up with anything that looks like what they have on these raccoons. I know there's a lot of speculation recently with other projects and clip art and that kind of stuff, but I can promise you, from what I've seen and how she draws stuff and the way she did things, that would be very hard to find if you find it at all. But today they are minting their tier 3 collection, which is tier 3 is hunters and farmers is their syndicates. That's why it's called Raccoon Syndicate. And today is the first 2 syndicates, which is tier 3. And so you have 2,500 farmers and 2,500 raccoons. Next month is going to be the tier 2 launch, which would be 1,500 clerics and 1,500 scientists. Those are the other 2 syndicates. Then the month following that would be the last tier, tier 1, which they haven't released the names, but it'll be 1,000 each. That'll bring the collection, if I do the math correct, bring the collection to 10K. And so each syndicate has basically its own ranking system in itself. So you have generals, officers, and there's another one. Generals, man, I forget. There's 3 different kind of rankings inside each syndicate. So in farmers, there's a breakdown of rankings, and in hunters, there's a breakdown of rankings. So you can tell that this project, they've thought a lot about how they're going to do the scoring and how they're going to do things. So it's really, really cool. Today is, like I said, the tier 3 mint. And what's cool about this is you have to have at least 3 to get a whitelist for the next mint, which is tier 2. And to get a whitelist for the last tier, you have to have at least 2 of the next one. So a strategy that people are doing is making sure they have 6 of this tier so that they can get 2 of the next tier so that they can get 1 of the last tier. Now, I'm personally not doing that. I think that 6 raccoons at the price that I think they're going to go for would be a lot more. So this is what I'm doing. I personally am probably going to get 3. And that price tag, I think, of 6 would be a lot more than it would cost for me to mint or to get 3 and mint 1 on the next tier and then just buy 1 from secondary for the next tier instead of buying 6 from this tier and then having to mint 2 more. So that's a total of 8. And then so like the math, I looked at it. I'm personally just doing 3. There's different strategies though, but it's really cool to see. I'm excited to see how the mint goes. If you guys have any questions about that or curious or want to know a little bit more, I know a limited amount, but I've done a little bit of research. So yeah. Feel free to ask away or post it in Discord if you can't do voice. Make sure you ping me because it's very hard to read through if it's not highlighted for me. And I know a lot of people are saying like, why? I see it. Why does the mint sound like a pyramid scheme? It's set up like a pyramid, but I don't think it's a scheme. It's just a way, like I said, another gamified way. Like, oh, I'm gonna get this to get this. Like kind of like derps. Like, oh, I gotta have a derp and an egg to get a pred. So it's just similar in that aspect of because there's a limited supply for the next 2 tiers. It rewards those that are holders for the project to get on the whitelist for the next mint. But yeah, and then what's cool about it is that every 2 months you get an NFT. Like I said, that can be customizable. So you'll send it, they'll send it to you, and then they'll have. I think Timmy himself is building a mint. I don't know what you call it, a mint machine, a minter, so that they can handle that on their side on their own. How's the whitelist mint going? I'm not sure. I haven't checked on it because I've been in here. It shows that there's 15 that are here so far. You can check it out on a JPEG right now. There's 15 of them. Um, oh, and also like the skins. So there's 6 different skins. And so each skin holds a certain rarity as well. So that would increase your base multiplier. So there's like regular skins, there's nature skins, and then they just released a like a zombie type of skin yesterday or the day before yesterday. They showed it, which looked really cool. And if you look at this, if you just look at the artwork, what's cool about this artwork is that everything, the reflections, the lighting, everything, like you can even see their weapons inside the reflection in their eyes. Like everything was rendered together. So all the color, light bounces, all the 3D effects are together with every item, instead of which most projects do is they'll kind of do individuals traits. Like I'll do the hand trait, I'll do the head trait, I'll do the eye trait, and so it kind of throws off that consistency with how things look as far as lighting and shadowing and all that stuff. But yeah, that's if no one has any questions, we'll wrap it up there. I personally am going to go do my whitelist mints for them and see what I get. And I, you know, this dev team for them, from the looks of the interviews, are very professional. I know there is comments on way Timmy does his avatar and stuff. It's just his personal preference and not wanting to show who he is. But there's the artist herself. She's shown her face. You know who she is. You know her credentials. You know Timmy's credentials and his experience in the space and development and stuff. So I have faith that this team is going to deliver. I mean, they're already minting now, and it looks like something that's going to be fun to hold. It'll be something that I'll enjoy. Another project that I think kind of hits on that gamer side of me, so I'm gonna enjoy it. All right, guys. Well, look, I'm hitting 30 minutes longer than I wanted to go, but it's all good. I had fun today. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I had a lot of fun talking about derps. I'll be doing this every week, unless I say otherwise. But yeah, it's been fun. I hope whoever's listening or whoever's maybe listening to the recording after, if you got to this point, thank you so much for listening in. I hope you learned something. I hope that if you're an OG, that you learned a little something. And if there was any questions you had, that they were answered correctly. If there's anything else that you would like to know or curious about, ping me in Discord or ping one of the mods or someone that you see in chat, and I'm sure they'll be able to answer your questions about derps. Also, just kind of like a heads up, this might be for those that are trying to exchange their their XP for their derp. Make sure, or if you don't see your assets, like your staking assets on the site, make sure you don't press the top right. The top right now is just visual. It will be added later on, but to connect your wallet properly, you want to click on your account, go to the account tab again, find the wallet tab, then add your wallet there. Once your wallet populates there, then you can go to staking and you'll see all of your NFTs there and how much you're earning per epic. So I know that was something that a lot of people have been saying that they have had problems with. So if you're listening to this and got to this point and you're having problems yourself, or you are a new investor and you want to check out and you're wondering how do I get that to work properly, that's how you do it. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. My throat and my mouth is so dry right now. I need to go give me some food and some water in me. And then I'll be personally doing my mint for raccoons. And I'm noticing that Derps is moving again. So thank you guys so much for being yeah. Wait, hold on. No, that was older. Never mind, never
Thanks,
mind. Yeah, the one
thanks
just
for
got
hosting
purchased.
this, man. And what is?
Oh, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Are we having the Derp and Coffee effect again? Derp floor is going up.
I don't know. Let me look. Let me see. It seems to be a thing, man. No, we just have one purchase in the last. In 4 minutes ago, there's a purchase.
It was the
But maybe
drakes
on
that were going up.
Derp Apes. Yeah, they're at 60. Wow, they're at 60.
Oh, so Derp Babes, look at that. Well,
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
uh,
Wow.
thanks for doing this, Mel.
294. No problem. I have fun doing this, man. I really do, and I think it's healthy because it you give a different platform to have things discussed. Because, like I said, it's hard to talk about things in text form sometimes. So it's better to have like a open discussion or forum that people can learn from. Um, I had fun doing it, so no problem, man.
Definitely, definitely. I was gonna ask something. I mean, I see a Hoarder left, but it's saying I wanted to hear more about his project.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, so that'd be something. Me and him, he's talked about next week. Possibly, we'll talk about his project towards the end of the dirt space.
Perfect. That'd be
Um,
great.
yeah, because I don't think there's much he wants to give away yet. So I think he said next week, whenever he knows more and is able to release more information, it'd be
Yeah,
better to talk about it then.
he's being weird about it. Something weird. You got something weird going on, Hoarder.
Yeah. All right, guys. I
Okay.
appreciate you so much. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. I see your names. Don't think I didn't see you jump in here and then jump out. Uh, Thank you guys so much for listening in. Please leave any suggestions on the Twitter post of stuff you would like to hear about or anything you'd like me to discuss. Because I am open to discuss anything and everything about Derps or other projects. So feel free to hit that up on Twitter, on my Twitter, where I have this posted, because I want to make this something fun for you guys and something you enjoy. So I don't want to just ramble on all the time myself. I would love to have more people talk and more people give suggestions and ask questions because it just helps me out. It makes it a more dynamic of a space than just hearing my voice all the time. So, yeah, you guys are awesome. I love seeing the hearts. Thank you, Goma, everyone that's here. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great day and